Well, hello there, and welcome to the Creating Health and Wealth for Retirement podcast. This is Rick. I'm Mark. We're excited that you're here today, and we want to share with you some things that you can do today. Rick, say hello so they can hear your voice real quick.
Hi, I'm Rick Collins. Nice to be here. I'm hoping to share some wisdom from my many years and all my gray hair. So let's get started.
And I'm Mark Dulaney. I'm the health portion of this podcast, and Rick is the wealth portion. But the point that we want to make first off is that we're not here to accept your excuses for not creating health and wealth for retirement. Because Rick, what's retirement if you don't have your health or your wealth?
I tell you, if you don't have a good body and a decent bank account to enjoy that good body, you're just circling the drain waiting for death. And we don't want that for anybody.
That's true, and more importantly, though, we want to give you ways to start creating your health, and Rick is going to help you create your wealth. And I just want you to realize that you're going to work 30 to 40 years in a career, and you're going to look forward to retirement your whole working career. Someday I don't have to do this anymore. And then what are you going to do without health and wealth? Life will be miserable. You'll have done all that work and you'll be sitting and doing things that are not fun for you. So Rick, talk about your background and why you can help people create wealth.
Well, first of all, I have to mention I'm an LSU graduate and I own Go Financial Solutions. That's GEAUX. I am from Louisiana. And I spent most of my working career as a corporate controller doing numbers and helping businesses manage their finances, mainly in the oil field. And I got tired of seeing people getting wiped out by the oil boom and bust or the price of a barrel of oil or layoffs of 10,000 people. And they didn't have any savings to speak of, and they dwindled through what they did have. So that kind of got me started down the road of helping people change their financial future by being a little more proactive in what they were doing. It's nothing drastic, but small changes along the way really help people build a cushion for later in life. When things go sideways or when they do get to retire, they can actually enjoy themselves. So that's kind of why I'm here, is to give people hope. If you're in your 50s or 60s and you haven't saved enough, it's not too late. Get started today, but you can definitely have a better outcome than the wing and a prayer most people live on of I'm going to work till I die or I'll live on Social Security, because really nobody wants to be in that position and have to go back to work at 80 when they live too long and outlive their savings.
And so my name is Mark Delaney. I'm the health part of this, and I do the same thing Rick does, except instead of worrying about dollars and cents, I worry about calories and types of calories and making sure that you burn some calories so that your body is as healthy and strong as it can be when you retire. Because actually it doesn't matter how much wealth Rick may help you create if you don't have the health, or if every step works, every walk, every step you take hurts, or you're limited in your mobility and people have to take care of you. Not only do you become a burden to yourself, to society, but to every person you love then has to take care of you. I can't imagine a worse thing than, we being in a great relationship with a phenomenal person as a man, and I'm sure it's the same true as a woman, and physically you're unable to enjoy her company or his company. That to me would be miserable after living a whole and working a whole career. So Rick, talk about a little bit more. Now, Rick is from Houston, Texas, and I am from the state of New York in Rochester, New York. And talk about, Rick, some of the things that people can do to get started on their wealth journey.
Thanks, Mark. One of the things that most people do is they put off savings. And they'll get to it one day, or they got to go have the shiny new thing. They buy the plastic thing. They invest their dollars in junk that depreciates instead of building for a future. So
Hang on a sec. But Rick, it's so much fun spending money right now. I mean, it's so much fun. I see all these commercials of all this cool stuff I could have.
That is true. I want the shiny thing and the blingy thing, and I want to impress the neighbors. Well, that stuff wears out. You're buying plastic crap, just like eating McDonald's every day. It might taste good, well, relatively speaking, but you're not building anything long term that's going to be of value. So, yes, it is fun to spend money. The way I help people is show them how to spend their money strategically. They park it in their own personal bank first, then they draw it out and spend it on whatever they want. But the money they put in gets to grow interest, compounding for the rest of their life, even on money they've spent on the blingy things, 20 years ago. That's where my approach helps people build financial security for their future without sacrificing their lifestyle today. They don't have to give up their Starbucks or their golf games or their mani-pedis or whatever it is, their dinners out, their trips. They don't have to give that up and eat rice and beans and rice and get a second or third job. They just need to be more strategic with the money they already have so they can have more in the future.
So rice and beans can be pretty good if it's properly prepared. I don't know if you want it to be a whole diet,
I'm
but it
from
can.
Louisiana. I love red beans and rice, but I would get tired of it if I had to eat it every day for the rest of my life because I couldn't afford anything more.
And so to go along with it, if you see, in my opinion, calories and dollars are very, very much the same. If you waste calories or dollars, you're going to be broke and unhealthy. If you invest calories and dollars, you'll end up healthy and wealthy. So I think there's some correlation, which is why we decided to get together and do this podcast. Um, Rick, it seems to me that when I look at society and what they're doing, it feels like society is, and I think this is true of all rich countries, they want their people to be dependent on them. They of course want the rich because the rich funds the government and funds their campaigns. But I do think that there's a part of it that when I see things out there, I see society trying to make us dependent, both financially, both health wise. And so speak to that issue if you can, real quick, in terms of what you see in society and how people should
Yeah,
buck the trends.
it's interesting. The back when Social Security was actually created, people had a very short lifespan. They were going to be retired maybe 5, 10 years, and now we're living longer. And so the Social Security payment that we have paid into that fund is the limiting factor of how we live our lives. And I will tell you that Social Security retirement age is probably going to go up in the future because the baby boomers are aging out. So there's not enough people to keep paying into the fund to keep funneling money out. So you're dependent on the government there because they're going to control what your cost of living adjustment is, possibly your full retirement age as we get closer. And nobody wants the goalpost to move. We want to know when we can start drawing Social Security and what that number is going to be. Those are subject to change. And the government exerts other kind of controls. Like if you have a 401k or an IRA and you're saving for retirement, all that money is taxable. So the government really, that's a windfall for the government. So when you start taking money out of your qualified money, your 401k, your IRA, the government gets taxes on that. Every penny you take out of your retirement is going to be taxed as regular income. And taxes are probably going to go up. So that never-ending dependency on the government or being under the control of the government financially, it's there in the background, but it's definitely a real thing for people to keep in mind of if I want to do something different with my money. Like, for example, I had 401k and I started to take money out to pay for my daughter's college. They hit me with a 10% penalty because I didn't have the proper forms filled out for a hardship withdrawal to pay for my daughter's college. So yeah, if something bad happens, you need to take money out of your 401k to pay for an emergency repair to your house, for example. You get hit with a 10% penalty to access your own money. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I believe that Social Security is maybe the biggest ripoff of the American people of all time. I'm not sure what you think about that, but when you look at it, when my father passed away, I looked at what my mom had to do. Now, there's so many things. So, for example, all the money I've invested, if I pass away before I retire, the government gets to keep that money. I don't think it goes to anybody else. If you're a government employee, you can only collect so much money from the government, including Social Security. Now, they make you pay in for full, but you can't necessarily get it all out. I just think that whoever came up with the idea for the government, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Definitely, it's almost a Ponzi scheme. I mean, money comes in, money
Wait,
goes back out.
almost. Almost. You're being polite. You must be. You folks down here in Texas must love the government.
I don't want to get on some government list being a conspiracy theorist, but I will tell you that it definitely resembles a Ponzi scheme because money coming in does not equal the money going out, and they keep borrowing to fill the gap. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we're in dicey waters financially.
So this is health and wealth, creating health and wealth for retirement podcast. And what advice? I mean, what's the first thing that someone should do if they want to start building wealth for retirement?
First of all, is to find out exactly where you are. Be honest with yourself. Get a thorough evaluation of the money you have saved. Find out from Social Security what that money should be when you retire, and then you have to kind of sit down
And
with a
so,
goal in
before you go
mind.
on, though, I would say the same thing is true with our bodies. If you want to create health, the first thing to do is get butt naked, look at yourself in the mirror, and see what you see. If you don't like what you see, it's not going to get better by itself. So, taking a really, really good look at where you are, both with your health and with your wealth, is always the first step. What do you think is next?
Well, yeah, that checkup for a baseline is definitely got to know where you're starting. You got to know where you're going. Set some. You have to have some real concrete goals, and written down goals. You know, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So, if you want to retire in 10 years and you want so much money to live on for the rest of your life, there are steps you have to take. So, putting that plan together is definitely the next step of getting what you want, because if you don't put a plan together and start taking action today, it's going to keep getting kicked down the curb, and you're going to get closer and closer to what your goal retirement date. You're going to find out you can't retire. You're going to wind up working longer, even if you don't feel like it, or your body's broken down because you're old, TMB syndrome, too many birthdays. Taking action with a good plan is the next step. Just quit putting it off, because that's just delaying the inevitable, and you wind up broke and miserable.
So I have a confession to make, and that is that at 63, I'm a 63, almost 64-year-old cancer survivor, and I was this entrepreneur person, and I had all these dreams and plans of mostly, and I think a lot of people like me are like that. We think we're going to create wealth through our income. We're going to make it, we're going to strike it big and strike it rich, and we're going to have so much income coming in that we don't have to worry about saving. Talk about why that's a big fat myth that everybody should have a savings plan no matter what.
Statistics show that most people, regardless of their income, will spend most, if not all of it. We're in a fast food mentality. We want our stuff now. So we buy stuff on credit. So the $20,000 car winds up being $30,000 by the time you're done paying for it. And then it's wore out. Then you got to do it again. So saving for retirement, it's so difficult because just like pouring a gallon of water into a jug, it's going to fill up the container. Well, our spending habits will increase with our income, so our lifestyle increases with our income, so we never get ahead if we don't do something different along the way.
I was thinking about when I was in my 20s. Someone said, "Don't live off your raises. Take all your raises and put them in the bank for savings." And that today that seems like really really great advice, which is don't just because you make more doesn't mean you have to spend more. And and so interesting thing to me is when we start talking about society wants us to be dependent, they keep coming up with new ways for us to spend money legally. So now gambling is legal. And while we all have that friend that won $300 last week, they don't tell us about the 10 times they lost $100. And so now in most states, cannabis and different forms of cannabis is legal. So not only can you spend money on that, but you can also be, what's the term? So high and euphoric, you don't realize that you're going broke. And so I just think there's so many ways that society is wants us to be broke, poor, but mostly unhealthy. If you look at the food that's produced today and the all the streaming television channels that people can watch and sit and watch and then go grab some fast food and then
Or have
drink
it
and get
delivered. They don't even have to go get it. It can be delivered with Uber Eats or DoorDash.
correct. And so I really what we want to do is really wake people up to understand this. And I think that I've said this many times. I'll say it over and over again. Every wealthy government wants its people to be subject to it. And there's two ways to make that happen. One is at the barrel of the gun. I think that was Stalin or one of the Russian oligarchs or whatever they're called. And the second way is to make us dependent. And I really believe that because they can't do it by the barrel of a gun directly, then the idea is let us be entertained, let us get high, let us gamble, let us eat crappy food and take a bunch of prescription drugs. And before you know it, so many of us as society are dependent on the help that they get from the government. Now, you're down in Texas. I think things are different in Texas than they are here. But here, every state senator, every state assembly person has this $30 million plan to solve a problem that people in New York State have. And I think that they come off as heroes, but they're using our money to fund those programs.
Yeah, the government has never been efficient at anything, and I worked for the government for a while, and I was married to an Army helicopter pilot. I know how inefficient government can be, and those government programs are so filled with bureaucracy and waste, and unfortunately, government programs almost always incentivize bad behavior. And I know this is going to be a little controversial, but when you start handing out money to single moms, guess what happens? You get more single moms. When you start handing out money for low income housing, guess what you get? A lot more low income housing. So
And a
those
lot more
government
low income
programs,
people.
well, yeah, lower income people. What happens is middle class Joe Q taxpayers paying for all that stuff. It's almost like the movie The Matrix, where human beings were actually enslaved to be batteries for this being that invaded Earth, but they had to keep playing a video in their mind to keep them alive. So the government's kind of like that. They're playing games. They're telling you one thing, and all they really are is riding you like a mule because they need your income. They need the taxes from all your hard work so they can give it away to these programs that really don't accomplish a whole lot.
Well, they do accomplish something. They get to hire their friends to administer these programs. And New York State has a phenomenal, from what I've been told, I don't work for New York State, but they have a phenomenal pension program. And if you work for the government in the state of New York, you are set for life with the pension program. And so they tend to pass those jobs on to their best friends and people who got them elected. It's the point we're trying to make to you is you have to take care of yourself because nobody else will. Yes, it's like with health. They can keep you alive, but that's not the same thing as living. And we just really want you to live, not just be alive. And I
Yeah,
can't imagine.
we're not trying to play gurus. We're sharing real experiences and trying to get through to you how important it is to be responsible for yourself. You don't want to be stuck on Medicaid when you're 80 years old in a Medicaid nursing home because it's terrible. It's the safety net. It keeps you alive, but you are miserable until you pass away. I would much rather see somebody take some action today to improve their health, make sure they're strong, they have the good core strength, they have good balance, they put money aside for their long-term care, they have an insurance policy that will pay for them to get that care if they get sick or injured, can't work. Don't rely on the government or somebody else to bail you out. We live in America, we live in the greatest country in the world, and there's all kinds of opportunities, and everybody can succeed. A lot of time I find out it's really about education and lifestyle, that poor choices and poor education, we don't know what's available to us. We don't know what we should be doing. And that's the reason, one of the reasons I'm here is I want people to understand they have a choice. And they don't have to settle for working 40 years and then dying miserable and broke. I'd rather have somebody work for 20 or 30 or 40 years, be able to retire with dignity, enjoy their lifestyle, pass something on to their kids and grandkids, and have the energy and strength to enjoy that time after work. That's really where we are.
Yeah, I call it 10 minutes versus a lifetime. There's so many things that we can do with our calories and our money that we will have the blast for 10 minutes, but then we pay for it for a lifetime. And so what we're trying to do is get people to invest their money and their calories into creating the health and the wealth that will allow them to really, truly live a very, very good life.
So, Mark,
And
when you talk about investing time and calories and energy, are you talking like wholesale lifestyle changes? Are you trying to give us a 30-day period to turn your life around? Or what are you trying to do here?
I'm just trying to help people get started. That's the main thing.
So,
There is no.
taking action is not changing everything about my life. It's really about taking one small step every day or one small change and make that a habit and then go to the next small thing. So you're not trying to change everything all at once.
Correct. If we talk about health, drinking more water than anything else would be a great place to start, and going for a walk. Everybody who's got decent health should be able to start drinking more water and go for walks daily. It's amazing what that start will do. What's the first thing, similar, simple thing financially someone can start doing?
Protect your money first. Don't blow it. Stick it in your own personal bank and then spend it. You mentioned health. I'm 53 years old. I started having back problems at 49. I gained a whole lot of weight. I hated cardio, so I didn't do it. Gained a lot of weight, screwed my back up, and I am about to have my fourth back surgery. Had I taken some steps, literally steps, walking every day and exercising, building my core strength, drinking more water, my health would be a lot better than it is today. So I'm trying to remedy problems that have been caused over 20 years, but I'm taking literally small steps every day to change that path so it doesn't get any worse.
Yeah, so I
Hopefully it
think
gets better.
so I think that you bring up an excellent point. When it comes to backs, couple of things. Number one, a big gut hanging over your stomach, hanging your down your belt, and it puts tremendous pressure on your back. There's a
They
thing
call that
called the
Dunlop disease. My belly's Dunlopped over my belt.
yeah, and there's this thing called the waist to hip ratio, where if your waist is bigger than your hips, you're more likely and more susceptible to many lifestyle diseases that will, hamper your future. So I think that we make fun of it when we say, he's got a big belly, I'm going to shake it. But the reality is that is a key indicator of future health problems. Being obese, being overweight. If I could get people to just get started, drink more water than anything else. So if you drink a 12-ounce soda, then drink 13 ounces of water. If you have that 8-ounce cup of coffee, then drink 10 ounces of water. Whatever you drink match it with water. And then just get up, go out and go for a walk. You're in the South where you have many, many more nice weather days than we do up here. But ultimately speaking, the idea of moving around and being on your legs so they stay strong and create and burn calories, that's a heck of a way to get started on a health journey. And it will pay dividends for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. You've never been in Houston in the summertime where it's 100 degrees for 3 months straight, but I would go for bike rides and walks at 5 o'clock in the morning because that was the only time it was bearable. But I kind of put that aside for the last year with my back problems, and I got on my bike the other day and took a ride around the neighborhood and did not realize how quickly people like me, especially, can lose muscle mass and strength. My legs were killing me after a half a mile, and I had to come back because I'm like, I am way too out of shape. So I've got to do that more often to build up that stamina and rebuild that muscle mass and get my blood pumping so I don't shrink away anymore. I've got to use what I got so I can build more and not lose any.
Yeah, and when you like Tiger Woods will tell you, when your back goes, everything else in your life becomes a lot harder. That core strength from the back, it goes a long way to helping life. And here's the other thing. Occasionally, I look at TV at night and I see all of these generic Viagra and Cialis commercials. I don't know. I mean, and I recognize that for some people, they have problems outside of lifestyle challenges. But if I'm, if I could ever find a woman who would marry me, and the last thing I want to have to do is
Oh,
worry
Mark,
about.
you're a handsome and fit man. You're gonna find somebody. I believe in you.
I got a face made for podcasting. Trust me, I got a face made for podcasting. But the worst thing to me would be I love this woman, I find her attractive, but I need to pop a pill before I can actually engage physically with her. I just think that that's not something we should all look forward to because it's available to us. And I don't think government help when it comes to finances should be the thing we look forward to most just because it's available to us. I think we have to have a plan and we have to do some things so that we have the health and the wealth for when we retire and even for next month and next year, not just retirement. The longer you wait to start any journey, be it a health or wealth or relationship journey, the longer by definition it's going to take you to get there. So, Rick, we are coming up on the end of our time today. Specifics. I talk about people should get started, drink more water than anything else, and that they should absolutely start walking. I'm going to throw in a third thing, and then I want you to think about three things that people can do to start getting their wealth creation in effect. The third thing would be eat foods as close to the way God made them as possible. As close as you can get to cutting it off an animal or pulling it off a tree or digging it out of the ground. Eat food the way God made it, not the way man altered it. So, Rick, what are some of the things that they can do to start their finances?
First of all, find out where you are. Educate yourself about the risks to where your current plan are. You got all kinds of risks that most people don't even aware of that are going to blindside you when you need your money the most.
So give them one or
Third,
two of those risks. Give them one or two of those risks.
taxes, inflation, longevity, health, market risk. Those are the 5 risks that will derail whatever plans you have if you're not prepared for them. And
I
the
like the way
third
you
thing,
I like the way you pull those 5 things right out without even thinking about it or looking.
it's
That's
like
cool.
I know what I'm doing or something.
You know what you're doing,
And the
yeah.
third thing is sit down with somebody like me who can educate you, find out where you are, and then give you your options of, hey, these are the things you can do. This is where you'll be in 10 years, 20 years, and then take action. So really, it's know where you are, know where you want to be, and start a plan to get there.
And if somebody did want to sit down and talk to you, how would they reach you?
You can go to my website, bankingforyourself.com. That's bankingforyourself.com. And it talks a little bit about me, and you can book a discovery call, and we'll talk via Zoom or phone and get to know each other. And I'll ask a bunch of questions and give you your options.
Bankingforyourself.com. That's a heck of a domain name, Rick. That's ultimately, is that your purpose for the people you work with so that they can be their own bank?
I want everybody to own their own personal bank account that protects their money, lets it grow tax-free, gives them access to their money tax-free when they want it, protects their health and wellness if they get sick or can't hurt or can't work. It's a safety net that leverages your money, lets you spend the same dollar more than one time in your lifetime.
And so for me, I think a thing that I would add, if for people who are getting started on their health journey, is don't ignore how you feel. Like, it's interesting to me how many people complain after a meal. Well, that's probably a meal you should stop eating. If the meal makes your stomach unsettled, or all you can do is fall asleep, maybe you need a different diet plan. If someone wanted to get a hold of me, it's MARKD6623 at yahoo.com. This is episode 1 of our podcast. I'll have a better one in the future, but for now, MarkD6623 at yahoo.com. And the key component is nobody ever regretted being healthy or wealthy, but everybody regrets the opposite. And that's the word I'd like to leave with it.
Dig your well before you're thirsty. Get started today so you can have the assets, health, and wealth in the future that you want.
And so we'll be back next week with another episode of podcast, and we'll talk more specifically about how you can start creating your health and your wealth for retirement. Rick, any last words for our listeners today?
Get started today. Quit putting it off.
And with that, we will see you next week.